Hi, everyone. Thank you for tuning in for our June installment. We've got 5 great companies coming at you today. For those of you just joining into the session, do keep in mind that this presentation may contain forward-looking information. There can be no assurance that forward-looking information will prove to be accurate, as actual results in future events could differ materially from those anticipated in such statements. Accordingly, viewers should not place undue reliance on forward-looking information. I'd like to now turn things over to Trevor Burgess of VoltSafe to tell us a little bit about how VoltSafe is bringing electricity into the 21st century by reinventing the electrical plug. So Trevor, take it away.
All right. Well, at VoltSafe, we have a team that's very obsessed with progress in many ways, socially, environmentally, and economically. When you look at the prong plug, you've got something that has, I guess, till now also stayed the test of time, but was from the second industrial revolution, which was, late 1800s. So we're still working with that playbook as the design, and as you can see, a little sneak peek as to what future design could look like. When we look at the prong plug, it's kind of interesting. We've always been focused on the other end of the device. We're infatuated with all the tech that goes into, the opposite end of the plug, but we've never really focused on that end to any real effect because we still played off that playbook. So, it's pretty interesting that our grandfathers, great-great-grandfathers, we're still doing it the same way as they did. And, there's perhaps some validity to that in that, hey, maybe it's not broken. However, there's a lot of stats out there and whatnot that really point to this always being a bit of a lackluster design to begin with. So when you look at kind of the main problem that we're addressing is, although we're numb to safety, realistically, there's over 30,000 shocks reported each year just in the US alone. So we're dealing with prongs that go into live outlets. So anything over 60 volts around the world, we have to stick prongs into live outlets. And that's just to keep us safe from accidentally touching the live outlet. However, there's also other problems with respect to safety. There's also accessibility. We've got 16% of the North American population is over the age of 65 now. And also we have 40 million Americans that are already that have moderate to severe physical disabilities. Plugging in at 18 inches off the ground everywhere in your house, except for kitchen and bathroom, is easy for able-bodied people, but not so much for these people. So, plugging in 3 prongs into, said design, easy for us, but not as always easy for our aging population. And also last, but definitely not least, there's smart plugs are being adopted really fast, which is great. The problem is they're mainly being adopted in the form of smart switches, meaning it just allows you to manually turn on and off, maybe set a schedule. What is important, though, is that we get to the point where we can see energy monitoring at the plug level. And the value proposition there to go from just a standard plug to a standard plug that has energy monitoring versus just a switch, you go from about 20 bucks on a simple smart plug to about 60 bucks for an energy monitoring one. So there's a gap there. And that's also, a problem because we're wasting extra energy that we could save, reduce the grid strain, and also, help the environment through reducing GHGs. So our technology is something that essentially uses an electricity gate. So because we have the technology of today, and we're not stuck in the late 1800s, we're able to just make outlets off by default. We're also able to make them IP68. So they essentially throw water on it, do whatever you want. It will not turn on accidentally. The way it works for our technology is we have the adapter side, which has a unique electrical fingerprint. And once it connects to hot, neutral, and ground, which are identified by, in this case, this embodiment, by the rings, once it touches and recognizes the other element, it will actually turn on within 5 milliseconds, and also disengage when it does too. So it'll never turn on and be live in any unsafe level. In fact, we've actually taken this technology and have it safety certified all the way to a safety integrity level of 3, which is that of nearly aerospace. So our addressable markets where we can take the technology, and already are, is residential, commercial, industrial. So, the patents we have around this are utility patents, and allows us to essentially create what could be the next universal standard around the world. When you look at some of the highlights that we've done and had thus far, one thing to note is that we are not inductive charging. We are not magnetic charging, through the air. That in itself has a lot of energy loss. So at scale, when you're talking about EVs and electrification of everything that's happening, that ends up being a big loss. And sure, the technology for inductive charging has been improving, but in real world conditions, there's always substantial losses. Radio frequency charging, also losses. So we're the first one that actually has no prongs, that transfers power just like prong plugs do, however, without the losses. Our first product to market was actually a niche product, and it set the stage for us to be able to safety certify the technology and bring it so that we can license the technology to large partners, and also have the potential, if we so desire, to commercialize other products ourselves. We are in revenue, and it is not the home product. This product will be launched at CES that you see in front of you. However, we are in big box stores, Canadian Tire, you name it, throughout Canada, we are in it, and we do have revenue that is over 500,000 to date. We entered the market in 2021 primarily, and we did a limited run of our first embodiment, which is a unique niche application which inspired the tech, which is block heaters. It's a Canadian problem. Engine block heaters, a quick disconnect for that. So the plug in essence can do even more things than smart plugs can today. Overall though, it brings social smarts in the form of safety and improvements to society, within our house. Also economic smarts. We are actually tapping into not just the current economic incumbents, but also the additional unreachable, which was previously unreachable, aspects of plug technology. The environmental smarts, we're able to make machine learning type decisions that users can simply use their app to monitor, to drive impactful decision making along the way. Instead of just hoping that they'll save energy, it actually will alert them and cut energy peaks. Overall, our strategic roadmap has brought us to safety certifying the technology into market. That was out of necessity to show the world that, yes, we can safety certify this. That was 5 years in the making, because the antiquated standards that exist today, basically only allowed for prongs going into live outlets for 60 volts and higher. Beyond that, we've started to mature the technology. So one thing we are doing is stepping up the power levels in the technology as we go. That's why you see the VoltSafe Marine functional prototype RV and Marine. The VoltSafe Power Hub is a embodiment that essentially is a power bar that works for gamers and professionals. That will be coming out later this year for crowdfunding. The VoltSafe Home in 15 and 20 amp iterations, in wall and exterior, and then also additional levels that you see as we amp up, unintended, I guess, throughout that. The goal to bring that is to take it to licensing. We are already in talks right now with 5 licensing partners, one of which we are in phase 1 of trials, which is a publicly listed multi-billion-dollar company. But I'll leave it at that so we can move to the questions and go from there. Thank you.
Perfect. Fantastic. Thanks so much for the presentation, Trevor. Definitely very detailed, very informative as well. And certainly in working with your company, my eyes have been open to the fact that there really hasn't been any innovation in that space in quite some time. So it's great what you guys are doing. I know we are coming up to kind of the end of the time period here. So I do kind of want to get a couple questions in, which I think let's kind of group into one to see how we can address that. But one in particular is kind of the plan for licensing versus commercialization of product. I know you touched on that quickly, but if there's anything you would like to add there, and then perhaps rolling that into kind of why people tuning in today should invest in VoltSafe.
Right. Great. Thank you. Yeah. So what we're doing with respect to the licensing versus commercialization, as mentioned, we had to do it out of, kind of by nature because the standards weren't there. We managed to punch a hole through those standards, which serves as a, IP creation, allowing us in and also others out along with their patents. The commercialization, basically what we're doing is taking the product so that we are able to show functional prototypes, sell the dream to potential partners in different verticals. We are going to market the product towards licensing in the industrial and commercial avenues, but also, obviously it's hard to avoid the home product. We're going to be doing a rather large launch there. Yeah, I mean, we're setting the platform so that we can license the tech and have the option to test the market for certain verticals that perhaps we don't have a partner in, but we've already established significant traction through existing channel partners and also through other means.
Fantastic. Well, thanks so much for the pitch today, Trevor. Really appreciate that and learning more about VoltSafe. I'm just going to wrap up here with a couple slides about FrontFundr for anyone who is new to one of our webinars. So we are Canada's leading equity crowdfunding platform. We make it easy for all Canadians to invest in Canada's most exciting startup and growth stage businesses for as little as $250. You guys had a great opportunity to meet some of those exciting startups and growth stage companies today. And we recently also reached a milestone of over 100 funded campaigns or raises on FrontFundr as well. So really excited with that. And for anyone who has questions about how to get started or make an investment, I do encourage you to visit frontfundr.com. You'll be able to see the campaign pages for each of the 5 companies here today. I believe all of which are closing in or around the month of June as well. So I do encourage you to check them out as soon as you can. And for any questions, I encourage you to reach out to support@frontfundr.com. So thanks very much, everyone. And I hope you enjoy the rest of your Tuesday.